Welcome to NFL World, where NFL starts and ends. I'm your host, Jacob. And this report came out this morning about Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson, who is waiting for a new contract with the Minnesota Vikings, was actually, the Vikings were considering trading him during the draft. Now, obviously didn't happen as we get into. They considered, the Vikings did, trading Justin Jefferson to get inside the top 5 to draft Malik Neighbors, which would have been the dumbest decision the Vikings could have done. Said, okay, we'll trade up, trade Justin Jefferson, and let's go get Malik Neighbors. To me, it made no sense. It makes no sense. But at the same time, you got a guy who wants a new contract. Those guys, their value, some people don't want to pay that. But that does not mean that trading him away would have solved all your problems. You still didn't have a quarterback. You still didn't have now a guy who can take his place. Now a guy who could be second receiver because KJ Osborne walked. You don't have those guys. So once you immediately do that, now you're in full rebuild mode. Do you really want to rebuild, or do you want to hopefully retool at the quarterback position? Because that's all these terms mean. It's the same thing. Rebuild, reload, retool, whatever you want to say. It's just how they operate. But I'm actually happy this trade didn't go down, because that would have meant potentially Justin Jefferson going to the Giants. And no one needs that. Nobody. All right, next up. So this was brought up on Sunday. Jeremy Fowler went on ESPN, and they do their weekly roundup of information. And they bring up CeeDee Lamb and how that all includes Dak Prescott. So they go and they say CeeDee hasn't gotten paid, and it might be because he won't want to be a Cowboy after this year. Well, you don't know that. Nobody knows that. So it becomes a terrible analogy to go that way, or a terrible realization to go that way, knowing that he's got a his fifth year option is what he has this year, and then he could get franchise tag twice before they sign him, or let him walk, whatever. So he could be here for another 3 years and not be paid. It would be easier to pay him. You keep the 5th year option. You don't have to pay him a lot this year. Next year you would. But this leads into Dak Prescott. And they say the reason the Cowboys can't pay Lamb is because they get no money in paying Lamb. That's first mistake. They actually do. If they pay CeeDee Lamb, they save, I think, $11 to $13 million. So they save money by paying CeeDee Lamb. The same thing with Dak Prescott. They save about like $40 million to pay him. So it's like, okay. But he said Dak Prescott's salary is $61 million. No. The salary cap isn't even that high. His salary cap of this year is $54 million, I think, $55 million, in that range. It's still high, but it was 59. Now it's 54, 55. So where did he get 61? Makes no sense from that perspective. And then it becomes, well, and I remember a report that happened that said if the Cowboys paid Dak Prescott, that might entice CD Lamb to stay. No duh. Hello. Is it that hard for you to understand your job? Seriously. Your job isn't that difficult. It's not. It never has been. Ever. Your job isn't that difficult to go and say, well, if this star quarterback stays with the team, therefore this wide receiver might stay. What? Of course. Of course he'll stay at that point. That makes sense. Why do you think that you should have said that? To me, that's needless. You didn't need to say it at all. Because of course, it's almost factual. What quarterback who is gonna wanna throw to a wide receiver that doesn't say, "I wanna be here because of my quarterback"? What wide receiver is gonna say, "I'm gonna go leave this great quarterback or this good quarterback to go to another team who may not have as good of a quarterback"? It doesn't make sense. It never made sense. But that's this reporting system of today. And I go back to what Jamie Fowler said on Sunday. The Cowboys aren't in a rush at this point. Should they? Yes. Are they? No. But it's because everyone in the media has no information. They just have to stand there and like kind of sway back and forth and talk for like 5 minutes about the Cowboys when there's no information about the Cowboys. And so they make it up. They don't know what to do. And I was thinking about this. Remember a few months ago when Carissa Thompson was talking about how she was a sideline reporter? When she was a sideline reporter, there was times a coach wouldn't give her an interview before half or didn't give him or didn't give her any juicy information, and so she would sometimes embellish the quote or make it up. That's what ESPN does. They embellish everything. So there's like a glossy kind of viewpoint. Like it goes back to what Dak said. Dak said, I don't play for the money. I I play this game because I love this game. The money has never been really a concern. Now, I'm not saying the money has no impact. He just was saying, I don't play for the money. I play because I love this game and I let my business people handle the financial situation. That's what you do, which is a good answer, but not what they want to hear at the same time. It's a good answer because it says, I don't care. I have people who work the financials out, so I leave it up to them. But me, I I don't care. I wanna play. And then you get all these reports of, "Oh, the Giants are this or that," and it's like, where did these things come from? They come out of the woodwork. You don't even know where they're from. So, that does bother me too. But to say that, CeeDee Lamb won't wanna be a Cowboy or Dak Prescott, the contract is this much, or he doesn't wanna get paid, he'll play for free, he'll do this, he'll do that. It's just ESPN's lazy reporting and them saying things that gets clicks, not actual info. Where here, we'll give you the information, we won't sugarcoat it. Do I think the Cowboys are right holding the team hostage by saying, "Oh, we're not gonna pay CD Lamb. CD don't even show up. Just go do your thing, stay in shape, and once we get it done, which it will get done at some point, then you'll be back." Same thing with Dak. Well, Dak, you're gonna be here, but we're not gonna even consider paying you until August. And Micah, I mean, I don't even know if we'll pay you this year. That's what they do. But they always cave too. So it's one of those things. If you're gonna get paid, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I just don't see this team going and saying, "Oh, we feel comfortable going with Trey Lance." I don't know what gave you that confidence. You're on something if you're saying I have confidence in Trey Lance being the starting quarterback of this team. You're on something because it doesn't work that way. Let's first see what the kid has before we make projections and start taking spots from people. The same thing goes without CeeDee Lamb, that offense is broken. So I think that's the end of that. That's my rant of the week. Moving on to some other news. So at the point of the season where with 99 days into the NFL season, and so there's not a whole lot of information going around. We got a lot of stuff that's been floated back up to the top that were on the bottom. We rehash, and that's what they do. It's kind of like if you're grilling or has an old flat top and you're making hash, you cut it up, then you flip the bottom and you cut it up again, you flip the bottom, cut it up again. That's what ESPN does. Or that's what all these networks do when you're in late May. So the Jets, as moving to the Jets have signed former All-Pro return man Tariq Cohen. Tariq Cohen played quite a while with the Bears, was a great return man. Then he ended up having to retire because of injuries, attempted a comeback with the Panthers. He got cut. Now he's trying to attempt that comeback with the Jets, with Aaron Rodgers. And that I want to look at this running back room because for the Jets. Here we go. I want to look at the Jets running back room. For here we go. Actually, no, that's wrong. That's not right. Because there's hang on. Let's go here. Here we go. All right. So now the Jets have 7 running backs. Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Israel Abanikanda, Isaiah Davis, Xavier Valade, Marquise Stepp, and Tariq Cohen. That's a lot of running backs. That's a lot of running backs. So how many will they carry on is going to be an interesting number. Put this in perspective, most running backs that you'll carry on might be about 4, maybe 5, but you're not gonna go and say, "We're gonna carry 7." No. So, this is just we're trying to figure out if there's a guy who can do this and make a roster spot. That's all. Next up, this also came out today. The Bills' offensive plan post Stephon Diggs trade was to get everyone involved. As the quote says, everybody eats. Now, that sounds simple enough. My question for the Bills is, if everybody eats, you gotta find someone that you have as a wide receiver can get so your wide receivers can get open. You gotta find somebody that you have that allows does the dirty work so everyone else can get open. And when you're betting on Curtis Samuel, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Matt Collins, and Chase Claypool, as long and drafting Keon Coleman, that's not an exact best case scenario. You also had on your roster Shakir, Justin Shorter, and KJ Hamler, as well as the tight ends Knox and Kincaid. But is Shakir's the best guy you got? Curtis Samuel's not an outside wide receiver. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, it felt like last year he forgot how to catch. Matt Collins has been a good piece, but not a great piece for when he was with the Raiders. Chase Claypool, it's like how many opportunities is he going to get because he hasn't been that great? And Keon Coleman's a rookie. So how much is he going to know? Is he going to be good right out of the gate or is he not? So there is concerns from that level. With Diggs, even though he might not have been the best last year, he still could. You still had to play him a certain way because you know he could go off it and have like a 3-game stretch of where he goes for 100 each game and has 20 grabs in each game. Like, you know he could do that. He has that capability. So it's just it doesn't work that way. I just want to see how with these guys they have, I don't see that being better than what you already had. I don't see it because you lose 2 starters. That's automatically hard to deal with. But you lose 2 starting wide receivers. There's a trust factor there. Now you're bringing guys that don't necessarily have that trust yet. So that's another reason. Next up, Nico Collins, and this is great for Nico. He got paid massive extension for Nico Collins. Let me make sure I can find it. I want to get the number. So I think Nico Collins doesn't exactly get the attention he deserves because he has great footwork and he has great hands. This was all put on by CBSSports.com, where he said, instead of Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins getting paid, Nico Collins got paid. 3-year extension. 3 years, $72.75 million, with a max of 75. $52 million guaranteed. He becomes the 8th wideout to make at least $24 million annually. A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Smith, DK Metcalf all make that amount of money. He makes slightly more than teammate Stephon Diggs, who could also be up for an extension, depending on how that looks. Here's the thing. Is there the thing for Nico Collins? First off, congratulations on getting paid. That's a big thing. But we always compare, like, T. Higgins hasn't gotten paid. Justin Jefferson hasn't gotten paid. CeeDee Lamb hasn't gotten paid. Those guys are going to be paid. But what is the rush for T. Higgins at this point? There's no rush. He's like, if you don't come to me with a deal that's over $20 million, why am I going to sign? I'll just sign my franchise tag. In the case of Justin Jefferson, he'll be like, waiting for CD. Let's wait for CD to do something. CD's doing the same thing. I'm just going to wait for Justin to do something. And I'll swoop over the top. But in the case of Jefferson and CD, they're probably going to go make $30 million. They probably are. Because they're that good. They had their best years. And they've showcased they can handle the load as a number one guy. Justin a little longer than CD, but CD has shown that he can do it as well. T. Higgins isn't a number one. Right now, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase both looking for contracts, potentially, waiting and not showing up at OTAs. That's not a big deal. Jefferson hasn't shown up. Lamb hasn't shown up. There is no reason for them to show up. They want to be paid. It would be like you go to work and you start working and the boss doesn't pay you, but you're supposed to be paid. That's the same thing. So you say, okay, fine. You're either going to pay me because we have a contract, or I'm not going to show up to work. And either you're going to pay me and because you still owe me the money. So even if you fire me, I still get my money. Same thing. And finally, let me make sure this thing is going crazy. So finally, we have 2 players returning to OTAs as Tua Tagovailoa and Micah Parsons are at OTAs. Micah said, I will be at OTAs next week. I'm kind of doing my own thing, stay in shape, working my ham. As Micah is a big person in boxing, he enjoys boxing, so and it helps with hand speed, so he does that. Tua was waiting for a contract extension, knowing he's due for one, definitely due for one, and hasn't been paid yet. So amidst contract negotiations, he's at OTAs. He wasn't in the beginning. Now he is. That's another thing that slipped in the crack, through the cracks, was Tua not being paid yet, and no one talking about it. I think Tua's contract is something we have to look out for, because it might not be as high as what a lot of us anticipate it will be. For NFL World, I'm Jacob Hebert. Out.